Hey pals, before we get into it, I wanted to, well, Bobbin wanted to say hi. Oh no, always shy now. This is Robin, or Bobbins, my precious baby angel. Long story short, we rescued him the day he was born, and they said he wouldn't live, but here he is. And can we talk about how big this boy is? Oof. He does still suckle though, so that's a thing. He's my baby. Do you want to hang out with us while we do the video? Is that okay? He's very needy. So yesterday I put up that video of just saying like, oh hey, I'm back, and kind of talking a little bit about burnout. And I said that I would make a video about my entire experience with kind of very, for lack of a better term, like traumatic burnout that I imposed upon myself as a full-time creator. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of discuss my experience and tell you guys what I went through, how it started, how I got there, the warning signs, and the aftermath, because I do see so many of my awesome peers of all types of creative industries heading down a very similar path to what I did, and I would never have recognized that before my experience. So if I can impart any advice or information that could get some of you who are bull rushing to the finish line, to slow down and just start really thinking about your mental health and yourself and what you're doing, then what I went through will be worth it. So, hi. It looks like Bobbins is gonna join us for the whole episode because he is in super needy mode right now. So there's plenty of videos on my channel, if you, my sporadically posted videos, if you wanna go back, that talk about who I am. But in case you're new here, welcome, please subscribe. I am Sophie, I go by Ome Sophie. I am a professional costume designer, cosplayer, content creator, streamer. It's been my full-time gig since about 2015, 2016. Cosplay and costume design, my art, and just educating people on how to build costumes, marketing, helping people turn their dreams into viable, profitable business has always been my passion. It's something I was passionate about before I got the opportunity for it to go full-time. So you can imagine that when I did get the opportunity for this to be a full-time thing, I went at it so hard. It's in my nature to be very driven. Like I get excited about things very easily, and when I get my mind locked onto something, like that's what we're doing. Like 10,000%, we're running at it, let's go. Which is all well and good until you do that for like 5 or 6 years without ever taking a moment to really take a break and reevaluate things and listen to your body. I'm gonna do my best to make like the longest story ever short. I used to be a huge proponent of hustle culture, and now I would say that I definitely see how damaging hustle culture is. I think it's important to be driven and passionate about your goals, like for sure, like you reach the goals by doing the work, but you can't work 16 hours a day, every day for years and come out the other side the same person or not have any adverse reactions. It's just not the way any of this works. I definitely think that we glamorize hustle culture, especially in the cosplay community. Like how much can you do? How fast can you do it? I know that for me, like I pump out a ton of content. Like I'm always shooting and building and, you know, working with companies or events, whatever it may be. I'm always doing something. And for me inside, that would never feel like enough. But my peers would say things to me or about me like, Sophie does more than anyone we know, or Sophie is always working, so much content, boom, boom, boom. And that was always a source of pride for me, because I always, like, no one ever really said it like derogatory. But for me, that was always, in my mind, it still wasn't enough, right? But I liked that people viewed me that way, because in my mind, it was like, this is why I'm smashing goals. This is why, because I just work tirelessly. Well, that was fine for the first year or two. After a couple of years, I did start like, so for instance, I would, especially when I started having the opportunity to guest at shows, I never wanted to turn an opportunity down. So I was doing sometimes 3-4 shows a month, most months of the year. And they weren't all like they weren't in my state, so I'm traveling constantly, and I got very into speed building, which I still love. I love to speed build costumes. It's just a lot of fun for me to push myself but I would sometimes build up to 4 costumes a month. So I'm building costumes, doing my social media. I also do marketing classes and workshops, and then I'm traveling, and I just thought this was something I could sustain forever because I felt really good about it. People warned me. There were definitely people in my life who were like, how much longer can you do this? And there were people who bullied me and were like, can't wait till she burns out, which I talked a little bit about on socials before. But I think a lot of people were just concerned for me, and I saw that as like a superpower. Like I was just like, no, I can do this. I can do everything I want to always. No. It is okay to turn down shows, opportunities, gigs with companies if it means putting you first. Always. It is okay to cancel a stream. It is okay to not post that day. I was also posting every single day, always. Always looking for opportunities to market my brand or promote my brand. Just my life 24/7 for years was living and breathing, oh my SOPHII. And I really, really didn't see a problem with this because my husband has always been wildly supportive right there beside me. My friends are the same, and my family. My parents would definitely be like, you should take some breaks. Like, you don't have to do this many things. But I just thought, well, they don't understand what this industry is like. Like, you have to be hungry or you'll fall behind, which just isn't true. But I digress. I'm not somebody who, I haven't had a lot of experiences with mental health issues in my life, and I've been very fortunate for that. So I deal with some anxiety, but not that's really impactful in any super meaningful way that, like, you know, interrupted my life in any way really. And I've never really dealt with depression or any of that. So I was convinced that that's just not a part of who I am. Like, that's not something I experience or could experience, which fed into this working, constantly being present, constantly feeling the need to always be online working, or I felt lazy. The need to be productive. If I took time off, or if I was just sitting around hanging out watching TV or playing games for myself, I immediately had the thought of, you know, this is when I could be doing work. I could be working on that cosplay. I could be responding to emails. I could be editing photos. I could be planning things. I'm wasting my time. So I really convinced myself that any me time was wasteful. And so since all of this has happened and I've come out on the other side of it, there's still things I think I haven't even like really realized yet, like how it impacted my life. So last week I went to my like first ever therapy appointment, and one of the first things she said to me was, well, what does SOPHII do for SOPHII? And honest to God, I sat there and was just like, what does that mean? What do you, and she was like, so you just work, you just work and that's it? And I was like, what does SOPHII do for SOPHII? Nothing. Like, I turned my hobby, the thing I did for fun, into my career, and I'm so thankful and I'm so glad, and I love it. Like, the love and passion for what I do has never like gone away, right? But you have to recharge. You have to have time to recharge. And because I turned what my fun thing was into a job and, you know, made it a job, I didn't replace that hobby with any other hobbies. Like, sure, I do things like go out with friends, me and my husband go out on dates and we do fun stuff together. And, you know, I'll go hiking and stuff like that. But outside of like those activities that we planned, like my whole day was wake up, work, go to bed. Sometimes I would be on my laptop working in bed. And I just, again, always viewed this as a superpower of mine. Like, I can do it, so I should do it. Like, let's go. So over the years, I didn't notice the warning signs. Again, I haven't really in the past been prone to heavy anxiety or depression in any way that's impacted my life. So I just didn't think it could happen to me. I also wasn't aware that stress and anxiety and like burnout can present physical symptoms in your body. Like, that's not something that ever occurred to me. So the first warning sign or red flag that I got was, it was 2019 and I was leaving Cincinnati Comic Expo. I had just been a guest that weekend, had the best time, awesome show. And I got on the plane and my brain just said to me, like, I'm tired. How long can we keep doing this? And I remember like cutting off that train of thought and going, we're gonna find out, YOLO. And then I like giggled to myself. Like, it was a funny thing, like, haha, how long can I run this before everything explodes? And I'm very like very positive person. I love to cheerlead people. I can see the bright side of anything. I can see the good in anybody. Like, I am wired that way. But now I understand what the term toxic positivity means, because like, when I first heard that term, I was just like, I don't think that's a real thing. Can positivity be toxic? Yes, I have since learned yes. So anytime my brain would try to like tell me like, hey, like, is this something we can do at this level for this long? I would immediately like cut my brain off, like give myself positive toxic positivity, and I would even like use that like concerning energy my body was giving me to work harder. Like I would, I believe in like universal energy and all of that, that's separate, but I believe in like converting your energy. So for example, like in the past when I first got started in cosplay and I experienced some very intense like bullying, I would take the energy from people bullying me and use that to power me forward. Like, I'm not going to feed into you. I'm just going to keep doing better and better and better and better. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing by any means. Like I think it's good to not feed into the negativity people give us. Like, there's nothing wrong with converting negative energy into positive energy until it becomes toxic. And that's what I was doing. So my body sent me, or my brain sent me that warning sign. And as soon as I got home, instead of feeding into it, I booked more shows and worked with more companies and built even harder and just pushed and pushed and pushed, right? So then COVID happened, and I remember I was in Myrtle Beach on we did a like content week, like me and a couple of cosplay pals and their husbands, and like photo shoots, we built costumes for it, collaborated, it was awesome. And while we were there is when the country got hit with COVID really hard and they were like locking down, and the day we were flying home actually is when basically the country like locked down for the first time. So it was good timing to get out of there. But so while I was in Myrtle Beach, Planet Comic-Con messaged me and canceled for the year, or postponed. GalaxyCon shows messaged me and they were postponing. Tokyo and Tulsa, like my show contracts started pausing, and that caused me to panic. And instead of seeing that in March of 2020 as an opportunity to take a breath and slow down and figure out like how to rework, like, like I started streaming so that I could, I love streaming and I love talking to people so that I could still kind of have that show energy. But instead of like taking a moment to chill and think about that, I panicked and I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna be home, I'm not traveling, so I'm saving so much energy there that I'll just work 4 times as hard at home. I will never say no to a single opportunity this year. I will always be on stream or running like interviews with other creators or shooting or working or building. I just, for whatever reason, and I just remember too, like being conflicted inside. Like there was a part of me that was like, this is like a godsend. This is what you need. You get to take a little bit of a break now. But shows were such a big part of my income at the time and being full-time that I panic worked. So I threw myself in my work harder than ever before, despite the fact that I was already starting to get really burnt out. I was experiencing, for the first time ever, pretty extreme anxiety attacks and panic attacks, which I didn't correlate to being overworked or burnt out. I just didn't. I started getting wild acne. There was a lot of like mental stuff going on. Like there was just all these new things started to surface, and it became easy to kind of blame them on the pandemic, right? And like the lockdown, and be like, oh, well, it's a weird time right now. Everybody's going through stuff. Like I just need to power through it and just keep going at, 10,000%. So I did that all of 2020 with reckless abandon. And I've said in a video before, I'm very fortunate. 2020 was such a tough year for so many people, and so many professional like content creators and full-time creators lost their brands. And I was fortunate that my brand really thrived in that year, despite the loss of like, the business structure the way I had to restructure all of it. And I'm very fortunate that that was a successful restructure. But success isn't sustainable if you're not doing it in a healthy, like manageable way. So I was all good, and then I thought I was all good, and then we get through the year and I'm like, great, 10,000%. Me and my husband got the apartment of our dreams, lots of windows and beautiful light. And I remember when we put our down payment down and got our move-in date, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna work even harder when we move in there. Like I'm gonna be doing like 2 to 4 YouTube videos a week. I'm gonna stream 5 days a week. I'm gonna build 3 costumes every month because shows aren't 2 to 3 because shows aren't coming back yet. I'm gonna start my own podcast. I'm gonna do X, X, Y. I'm gonna have all the time in the world to do it, right? Like, I'm in this beautiful open space, positive energy. There is nothing that can possibly stop me. So I moved into this space with that mindset that I was just gonna hit the ground running harder than ever. Nope. Well, I did. Like, we moved in here and immediately, like, we got in 2 days, we got like most stuff unpacked other than like the cosplay layer. But the first week I was unpacking the cosplay layer, it took me longer than I thought it would have. I don't know if you guys said, but I kept saying like I was gonna do like a cribs type episode on here, but I never did it because I was struggling to get the room unpacked and I couldn't figure out why. I was just mad at myself. That's the other thing that comes with a lot of this, that I know a lot of you I've spoken to experience is like the shame and guilt for feeling this way and that, or for being not present, and I wanted to avoid that at all costs always. So while I'm struggling to unpack my stuff in the cosplay room specifically, like everything else was unpacked, but I was just having a mental block with that space. It built more shame and more guilt. And so I kept pushing harder. I got it all done. I immediately jumped into new costumes, Lords of Shomaru, and a few other ones and new projects, and back to streaming almost immediately. I didn't even have stuff set up yet. Like, I just hit it really hard. It took about 2 weeks, 3 weeks for me to really start like crashing and burning. And it was a really slow crash and burn that came to like a head last month. So I would have crazy headaches after stream. I would wake up with crazy headaches. I started getting ringing in my ears all the time. My natural like positivity and emotion was just like shot at. Like, I'm not a mean person. I'm just not mean. I think I'm very empathetic to other people and how they feel. And I don't say mean things to people, and I try not to say mean things about people, but I could just feel myself getting like meaner. Not that I was like mean to anybody, but instead of being like the rallied cheerleader person, I was getting like negative and kind of mean, and I was thinking bad thoughts about people, and I was experiencing like jealousy and just all these things that aren't really Sophie. And I even expressed to my husband that I started to feel like Sophie, who I am, was trapped in the back of my mind somewhere, and like something else was kind of like taking over. Not like possessed or anything. It was just this, like I said, I've never really experienced like depression and that to this level before. So I couldn't really figure out what was going on. And then each morning I would wake up and I was super unhappy. Like, I would go to bed thinking about all the work I had to do the next day. I tried really hard to organize things too. Like, I would have to-do lists I would go through, and some days I would feel great, but most of the time I would wake up just like dreading the day and feeling guilty and selfish because, you know, like, I've worked very hard to like build this hobby into a viable, profitable business, and I love it so much, and I felt guilty and shame for not wanting to do these things when I know that so many people are working so hard to achieve this same level of like success in their career, you know, comfort in their career. And then the depression hit. Like, I realized that's what that was, and it went from just being at night and morning to throughout my whole day. And I would have to, like, I was still streaming. I would rally myself for streams real hard, and streaming was definitely like an awesome escape, because once I got in there and I was talking to all of you guys and all of my people on there, I got to like escape for a little bit and kind of, I don't know, that was very positive, right? But when I would finish, I would immediately have a headache and would be back to it. And I just started feeling myself lose the fire that had made me me for years, and well, my whole life. And to the point where eventually I just didn't know who I was or what I wanted anymore or where I was going. And I won't go into like detail or anything, but I was just like more depressed than I ever imagined was like possible. I explained it as like every time I entered like a new circle of hell, the next day a new one would unlock. It was just like, I don't like to use the word like trauma, because I feel like people get to decide what is trauma to them, right? But I always tend to think of myself as not experiencing those type of things. And so I had a hard time coming to terms with the fact that I had like basically allowed myself not only to burn out so hard, but I kept working through the burnout for over a year, to the point where it had become traumatizing to me, to my brain. My emotions were all messed up. It was starting to affect my relationships in real life. It just bled into every area of my life. And I really, really, really had about 2 days in a row where I almost started packing up my cosplay room. I was just like, I'm done. I have nothing left. There's nothing left in me. I have to quit. And that is because I still wasn't like giving myself space to heal. Like I just was of the mentality of, oh, well, I crashed and burned. This is what everyone said would happen. I'm done. I quit. Like there's no getting out of this. This is my life now. I am this person now. And that's not true. And I'm so thankful that that is not true. But it was a very dark place, very polar opposite from anything I've ever experienced before in my life. And I felt just shame and guilt, and it finally got so bad that one day it kind of like got so bad that I woke up, right? So one day I woke up and I was crying all the time. I was crying in my cosplay room all the time, which is the reason we're remodeling it, because you can't heal in the space that hurt you. And not that that room hurt me, but I put all my hurt into that room. So when I kind of started coming out of it, I took steps. Like I said, I got a therapist to talk to about this stuff. I know some wonderful fellow content creators who have been through something similar, although didn't quite let themselves get as deep into the madness as I did. So they work with therapists who understand this type of like industry and the pressure and that. And I started seeing a therapist. I'm very pumped about it. She is awesome. But before that, I had a day where I kind of just woke up. Like literally, like I woke up and I was like, I'm doing this to myself. This is entirely self-imposed. No one, I am my own boss. No one is telling me I have to do anything. I'm taking all of this shit way too seriously. I need to take a breath, calm down, and take a fucking break. And that's what I did. And I let go. I had to, and you know what? I think I just hit a point where it wasn't even hard to let go of the guilt and shame anymore, because I had just reached the point of no return. So I was just like, well, I'm taking a break. Like I'm just gonna kind of back away for a while from everything entirely, in the realm of, you know, what was burning me out. And I genuinely felt like no guilt or shame. Like that's how done I was. And I wasn't sure that I would return, but I didn't focus on that too much. I stepped completely away. You guys know, I've joked before, like SOPHII doesn't know how to cook. I can barely use a microwave. I started cooking for fun and I really enjoyed it. I started doing other things and almost completely ignoring the creative realm that I was in. I stopped streaming. I kind of stopped posting. No, I posted kind of when I felt like it, but I stopped taking posts down when the reach didn't do well. I stopped worrying about just all of that stuff and just focused on me and did some fun stuff for me. And even if that fun stuff for me meant kind of like just crying that day and thinking about the way I felt, I just did that. And I did that for about 3 weeks. I mean, I haven't been streaming consistently just because I'm not making myself do anything right now. So even like on Tuesday, we've been remodeling the cosplay room. It doesn't look the way I'm excited for it to look yet. So I was like, I'm not gonna go live because I wanna give myself full space, 100% charge. I don't wanna get to 60% battery and dive back into the same level of work I did before. I would say that as of today, I'm at like 95%, like I'm feeling super pumped, and that's why I felt like making this video. And but I have to watch myself because I am prone to diving into things with excitement and reckless abandon without thinking about things. So that's one thing that I am really working on now is, do I feel like doing it? Do I need to do it? So yeah, like I hope that this video makes sense. I was gonna like do like bullet points and kind of like not script it out, but things I wanted to hit, but I just wanted to talk about it like as it popped in my head and express to you guys, like, I don't want to, I'm not trying to like trigger anybody or anything, so I don't want to like use any terms, but like I let myself get to the dark, a place so dark I didn't know it existed, over something that should be so much fun, right? Like having a career in this industry, obviously work is work and it's like stressful, but I over fucking did it. And I did a post a while back, and part of the reason I overdid it, and I'm not putting blame on anybody because I made these choices, I got myself to this point, this was self-imposed. I do think that hustle culture is very dangerous, and I feel stronger about that than ever now, because I did play a part in it, but it was still a choice I made. But when I first started cosplaying like full time, there was a lot of people in my local community who did not like that. Like our community in this area at the time, that just, I don't know how to explain it. Everyone was very hungry, and as soon as me and Sissa became Ultra Girls Cosplay and started doing some full-time stuff, we were met with a lot of vitriol. And I'm like, I like to go 10,000%. I like to be productive, and when I'm having fun, you really can't stop me. So I was hitting it so hard, and people would say to me, like, I can't wait for you to burn out. You're gonna crash and burn so hard. You're gonna burn out. Like, and it was like a source of, it wasn't like the people who have said it separately who were concerned about me. These people, it was like they were so ready and excited for that to happen. And that was like late 2015, early 2016, I think, maybe all of 2015. But I carried that with me. I internalized that, and anytime I felt like I was like getting tired or didn't have the energy to do it anymore or needed to take a break, whatever it may have been, those words popped into my head, and I used them as fuel to push harder, because I was not gonna allow those people to be right ever, ever, ever. But you know what? They were right. I did crash and burn harder than I would have if I would have just had a few burnouts throughout the years. I had one big one and crashed and burned in a way that nearly impacted my whole life in really devastating ways. So yeah, they were right. But burnout isn't the end. I think we see burnout as like, oh, if you hit burnout and burn out, like you're done, right? Like you burn out, you're done, you lost everything. And that's certainly what I viewed it as. So I was too scared to accept the place I was in. But that's not what it is. In fact, for me, it was an opportunity to reevaluate the way I was living my life, the way I was running my business, my what I was prioritizing in my life, what I was doing with the hours of my day. I've had some really, really cool opportunities, and I've gotten to do some incredible things that I never in my life thought would be open to me over the years. And I feel like in the moment I was excited about those and I enjoyed those, but I hadn't taken the time to appreciate like the successes in the moment properly. You know, like I hadn't taken any time to be proud of myself and to be like, take a minute, I hit that milestone, I got that gig, I did that thing, I built that thing, like, good job, Sophie. Like, I wasn't doing any of that. It was always just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, because I feared burnout. But it'll happen to you if you aren't taking care of yourself and aren't like listening to, especially physical symptoms. I broke out in a rash. Like I said, there was like buzzing in my ears. There was a couple of times where I like nearly blacked out. In fact, there was an instance at the last the in-person guesting gig I did right before COVID was GalaxyCon Richmond, and the Sunday going onto the show floor, my husband was with me, and I nearly blacked out in a hotel room that morning. I nearly blacked out getting on the little shuttle that took us, but I rallied and I got through the day because it was my job to do that. But even in that moment, even when these things were happening to me, I was just like, no, this isn't Sophie. Nope, you're not, nope, power past it. And I saw that as a superpower, and it wasn't. It was crazy detrimental to me. But I think that I don't think obviously toxic positivity is a thing, but I don't think positivity itself done healthy is a bad thing. And I've decided to view my burnout as a lesson that I clearly needed to learn. And it was an awesome opportunity because it stopped me in my tracks and made me reevaluate everything. I had to really deep dive things in my brain, work through things. And so I did that first, and because I was like, you know, I don't have to keep doing this full-time content creation thing if it's not for me. Like, I don't have to. But I struggled with that. But then when the guilt and shame, like I said, when I could no longer even feel that, like my body and brain just quit working, and there was no guilt and shame, and I was able to just focus on like key questions, like, okay, do I love what I'm doing for real? Do I enjoy it? Do I want to keep doing it? Are my long-term goals attainable? Is my income attainable at the level I'm working? And I was just forced to have some real talk with myself. And in that, I found that I do still love cosplay so fucking much. I love building, I love teaching, I miss shows so much, and I love streaming. I love making YouTube videos. I love connecting and talking to you guys. Like, community has always been key to me. I've said that a billion times, and that is still true. I just was so blinded by my burnout that I couldn't see that anymore. So then I had to, once I realized that yes, this is where I want to be, I decided, or I had to next figure out how I was going to do this in a healthy way. And part of that was, again, moving back into my work in a slow and steady manner, not just being like, okay, I'm good now, I figured it out, dive back in full speed. No, I slow roll, right? I started posting more again. I would edit a couple photos here and there for like Patreon and OnlyFans and stuff, and on my socials. I said no to some opportunities that came my way, and I said yes to some. I haven't streamed a ton. It hasn't been consistent. That does give me a bit of anxiety still, only because I said I was gonna come back consistently, but then I had more real talk with myself. Like my body was like, hold on, like streaming takes a lot of energy. Are you ready for that yet? Because if I let myself recharge to 100% properly, I will be able to do all of the things that I want to do in a healthy way. And that is the point. I do believe that you can do everything you want to do. You just have to make sure you're doing it in a way that's healthy and not detrimental to your health and your mental health, right? So those are the tough talks I had to have with myself, and I came to the realization, I figured out I was just gonna do things as I felt like them, as I was in the mood to do them. Obviously there's some things that are like, you know, like orders have to go out, right? So I need to do those. I need to rally myself to do those even if I wasn't super feeling it. But I have people in my life who helped me with that, and that's awesome. I set better expectations for myself. So like on my print orders and Patreon, physical stuff takes a little longer to come out. I have a new printer too that takes a little bit longer, but just I'm not going to be doing packages every single day or every other day anymore. I've just compartmentalized my life into clean little pockets that work for me and that are most importantly sustainable. So I did that for a little bit, and then one day I woke up and I was like having a coffee and standing outside the door to my cosplay lair looking in. It was a mess, let me tell you. And I just looked in there and I was like, again, you can't heal in the space that hurt you. And someone actually said that in my post on Sheeprop too, and I really appreciate it because it's true. And so I just felt like it. I gutted that place. I pulled everything out, took everything off the walls, vacuumed, cleaned everything, and one by one moved everything back in there in a more well-organized way, not a rushed way, methodically. I was planning like the aesthetic for when I am streaming, and it felt therapeutic to do that. So that was one of the things I was also looking for within myself while I was doing it is, if I'm doing it and it feels stressful, then I need to keep reevaluating where I'm at. But I had a lot of fun starting the remodel and getting it all together. I was just listening to podcasts while doing it and listening to music, and it just felt good. So yeah, this has been a really long-winded like story, and there is so much more. I could probably do like 2 hours of this. There was an instance where we had some friends come into town for a collab, and I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do so much content for, and this is just like a month or two ago, so much content. I'll have it backlogged because backlog content is important. But I just crashed and burned, like I crashed and burned so hard that yeah, that's when it really started getting dire. But yeah, I just wanted to share my experience because I think hustle culture is really dangerous. I think the cosplay community is still really prone to hustle culture. I think like a lot of it is like kind of like show-off-ism. Like if I look like I'm doing a lot all the time, then people will think I'm really in demand and really busy. And I understand that. I 100% understand that. But you come first, and your hobbies and your passions, your fire within will not stay lit if you're not tending to it. And I didn't tend to mine, and it went straight out, and I didn't know who I was anymore. And I'm really happy that I can sit here today and genuinely say that I did the work to get back to being Sophie. Like I said, like 95% or almost all the way back. But I will never, ever let myself get to that place again. When I return to conventions, I will be doing panels about this and talking about this very openly as best I can, because I just do think that our community still pushes this narrative so hard. Hustle culture, hustle. Is someone else doing more than you, they're gonna be more successful than you. And that's just not true, and success is very personal anyway. Like what I consider successful in my life may be different than what you consider successful in your life. And at the end of the day, you should be enjoying what you do for the most part. Work is work again. If it is your full-time gig, as long as you can pay your bills, you don't need to be making $1 million. And money isn't sustainable if you have to work 24/7 to earn it. Sustainability, mental health, is so important. Self-care is so important. Having hobbies outside of what you do is so important. You can like live and breathe cosplay, but not really, right? Like not really. You need to have a well-balanced life, man. please heed my warning. So yeah, there is my long rant about my mental health journey. To anyone in the past I've ever been like, especially if they were dealing with like anxiety or depression around like cosplay or their career, and I've tried to be supportive and my support instead has come off as toxic positivity, I apologize. That's not really something I recognized within myself. I just love seeing people succeed and I want to help people and push people, and now I can look back and see that maybe there's been times where that's not what was needed. Like they were needed, told, oh, keep going, you got this, but actually stop, just step away, take a break, release that shame and guilt, meditate, go for a walk, whatever you need to do to take a mental break from those things and just turn off. I have also started reading, so in our Discord, I have a book club section now, so I'm really excited to share some of the stuff that I'm reading with you guys. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I adore this community and I adore cosplay, and I'm so pumped for shows to be returning, and I want to make sure I'm at 1000% health for the show to return. And I also just wanted to make the point that talking about our mental health struggles, especially, or burnout struggles within cosplay, doesn't take away, like, people, just, we need to talk about it more. Like, let's chat about this more and stop others from getting to this place, because I know I'm not the only person who has gotten to this place, and if I can help 1 or 2 people not do that even, that would be sick. So yeah, thanks for watching my long ass rant. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for still being here and for showing me that I can take breaks and step away, and that doesn't mean the demise of everything. Yeah, just thank you guys. Have a fucking killer day. Mwah.